Welcome to Building My Legacy podcast. This podcast is designed for leaders and entrepreneurs who want to leave a legacy and will provide strategies that focus upon key elements for legacy creation, determining your desired impact and its benefit, increasing your legacy's reach by engaging key stakeholders, planning, prioritizing, and executing. Here's your host, Dr. Lois Sonstegard.
Sounds good.
Welcome, everybody, to today's Building My Legacy podcast. I have with me today JP Clement. He is CEO of boomtime. It is a marketing company, and he is passionate about how do we know whether or not our marketing is really working. So KPIs, analytics, and then looking at the digital products that we use for their utility, for their effectiveness. And so with that, JP, I'm going to turn this over to you. You've worked with major companies. You've worked with Madison Square Garden. You've worked with General Mills. You've worked with Johnson & Johnson. And my goodness, National Geographic. So
Yes.
A variety of people or organizations. You come with a great deal of background. And so tell us a little bit about yourself and what got you into marketing and digital marketing.
Well, thank you, Lois. Yes. Marketing has been kind of a passion of mine for many, many years. I think I've accumulated about 32 years of experience in marketing. I started doing digital marketing in 1998 with a company called Ticketmaster Online City Search. And I've been doing a lot of that since. Across obviously these years, I've done a lot of strategy, a lot of product management too, or marketing, or product marketing, if you want to call it that, for large companies like you mentioned. A lot of digital innovation strategy work as well. But yeah, marketing has been my passion for many years, and I really enjoy the dual nature of marketing, the fact that it has a very creative component, and also it has obviously it's kind of a science and an art at the same time, and the analytical part and the discipline part, I would call it too, of marketing is something that really appeals to me as well.
So marketing has so many different components today, but one of the things that you talk about is word of mouth marketing. Talk a little bit about that, because in a sense, that's what digital marketing is a form of word of mouth. But what all do you mean by word of mouth marketing?
So word of marketing is a branch of marketing, of digital marketing, that really popped up in the mid 2000s, 2005, 2006 is when people started to really talk about word of mouth marketing. And that's actually when the Word of Mouth Marketing Association was created. So there is something that deals out there with that deals with word of mouth marketing. But the way we think about word of mouth marketing at boomtime is really a combination of different things that create this word of mouth and this way of getting recommendations and referrals for your services or products. Which is, by the way, has been for years and years and years the main source of leads and sales for a lot of companies in the digital space. That's what people trust, word of mouth and recommendations from friends, from colleagues, from peers, way more than they trust typical traditional advertising. So be it digital or traditional like TV, radio, and so on. But we've focused on word of mouth marketing because it works. But the way we look at it, it's a combination of various components of digital marketing. So it includes email marketing, which is, by the way, probably your largest ROI marketing tool out there, a digital marketing tool. It also is based on an asset that you own. You own your email list. You don't own your LinkedIn connections list or your Facebook likes or followers. but you do own your email marketing list. So email is a great way to build that rapport with your customers and to generate that word of mouth. We also use other techniques within email marketing that enable us to mine your mailbox, which is something that is very under represented in, I think, email marketing and really underused. You own you have a lot of potential customers probably in your inbox, and so we do what we call mailbox mining, which is then leads to email campaigns. We also do a lot of LinkedIn connection campaigns, trying to fill the top of the funnel of the sales funnel with LinkedIn connection campaigns. We create a lot of content, which is what enables you to do interesting and powerful LinkedIn campaigns, but also obviously feeds into your email campaigns. And the content creation is really based on the idea that you need to build your authority and a level of trust with your potential customers and your audience. So this is something that we do as well. And then the other parts of that is that there are other things that can amplify that word of mouth marketing, such as Google ads and Facebook ads and LinkedIn ads and all these different things, which is not it's in and of itself is probably not generating a lot of word of mouth, but can amplify what you're doing in a word of mouth space. And then we also build websites that are built to capture leads to really help your email marketing campaigns and showcase obviously the content that is being distributed through your email marketing campaigns and your LinkedIn campaigns.
So JP, there's a lot of pieces that go into this marketing. And in many ways, it's become more complex, hasn't it, than it was prior to using the digital space?
Yes, definitely. When I started doing marketing, there were probably only about a handful of things that you could do. You could do print, radio, TV, out of doors, and PR if you want to consider that marketing. But that's pretty much it. Nowadays, if you look at the scope of what can be done in the digital marketing space, it's pretty staggering, and it's very difficult for companies to figure out exactly what types of digital marketing they need to use to achieve their goals. And that's something that we have kind of narrowed down, obviously, as I mentioned, although even with this narrowing down, we still have, many tools that we use. But word of mouth marketing has really proven to be the most efficient type of marketing for B2B companies. And that's what we do. But yes, there are many different tools. There's no more silver bullet nowadays in this digital marketing space. There's not one thing that's going to work. You're going to have to have an integrated kind of marketing plan that ties together many different tactics that should generate your results. But all these have to be thought about and you have to ensure that all these pieces work together harmoniously to deliver your goals, because one thing just won't do it. I mean, you couldn't rely on just doing Google ads, for instance, or just doing LinkedIn marketing, or just doing video marketing. I mean, you have to use many different tools.
What's interesting is, so in this space of digital marketing, with all the pieces that go into it, what also is amazing is how many people just suddenly decide that they're going to become digital marketing experts, and right, and they begin to sell their services. So what do you look for in a company when you're looking for a digital marketer? Because you've got to cut through the noise of people who really don't have experiences.
Yes, the number of gurus and experts that have popped up in the digital marketing space is pretty outstanding. so I think there are a few things that you need to look at. Is one is companies that understand the power and can deal with analytics. You need to know how to look at data to inform your marketing decisions. And companies that do not believe in facts or look at data and look at what the numbers tell them, and are able to tell stories from those numbers, to help you out. To me, that's one of the first things that I would look at. Second, I think you need to do, especially in this pretty insanely complicated digital marketing world, you need to be able to remain disciplined. And by that I mean that because there are so many different things that you can do and so many ways of doing them, you need to be very, very disciplined about looking at your analytics, thinking through your strategy, making sure that the tools you use make sense, and then implementing them, which is pretty critical. And the devil is in the detail, as they say. And making sure that the implementation is done in a very disciplined manner. So that's part of the processes behind digital marketing are also very critical. And so I would look for agencies or experts that employ refined processes that have been tested over a course of years, or at least a significant period of time in various settings. So I think that discipline aspect of marketing is something that gets forgotten very often. But in the end, marketing is about people. You can't. There's a lot of people who've tried to get marketing done by machines, and there is a lot of AI programs that do a really good job of doing some things about marketing. But ultimately, you want to make sure that the people doing your marketing are experienced, creative, and disciplined.
So we talked about analytics. You begin with a strategy, and then you look at the analytics. What analytics do you look at? What's important? And then I want to come back to ROI, because I think ROI is one of those things that's not talked about relative to digital marketing. And so without that discussion, I don't think it's possible to have a robust accountability system in place.
Yeah, you're right. Accountability is critical as well, and the only accountability you can get is through analytics, really, because that's the only way that you're going to be able to measure the results and the effectiveness of your campaigns. But marketing is a little bit of a tricky one, and you were asking me, what analytics makes sense or should be looked at, and my answer is going to be a little bit wishy-washy, but it really depends. And I think the key part of this is to define your strategy, your digital marketing strategy. But that strategy itself should be informed by analytics, and not necessarily yours, because you might not have started yet. You might not have done any kind of marketing prior to that. But you can look at secondary research and get a lot of different numbers and benchmarks to at least get you a sense of what can be done, what should be done, what works, what doesn't work in your industry, maybe in general terms. But once you've set your strategy, you absolutely need to look at what does success look like, and what success looks like is going to depend on a lot of different factors, and every company is going to have a different idea of what success looks like. But setting those KPIs, those key performance indices, and setting targets for those KPIs is going to be critical to your success ultimately, and to creating the right campaign for what it is that you want to achieve, and what success for you looks like. So I've been spending most of my career trying to convince companies, and or when I was within large companies, people within the company, that you need to have a discipline to do that basic upfront work to otherwise, you'll have nothing to judge your performance against. So, and nothing to compute your ROI against. So, defining goals. So, what numbers make sense? So, it could be, sales. It could be conversion rates for an e-commerce website. It could be, reducing churn or churn rates for some companies. So it's going to be all over the place, right? But the good thing about digital marketing is that you can measure pretty much all of these different things. This is something that we didn't have the luxury to do when I was dealing with traditional marketing tools. It was always a big question. Well, you do advertising, but what kind of ROI are you getting on your TV advertising? And it was always very, very difficult to compute because there was not a direct link between what you were doing in advertising and what your sales or your revenue or your goals were like, and what the coordination or the link between the two were. In digital marketing, the great thing is that anything you do has a direct impact, and you can measure that impact, which is kind of a godsend. At the same time, it also makes things a little bit more complicated because there is so much data that you can get access to when you do any kind of digital marketing campaign, that you really have to be experienced at and savvy with figuring out what numbers make sense, how to read those numbers, and all these things. But creating that first kind of those first benchmarks and defining what those KPIs are, and then tracking those KPIs, and then being able to read those KPIs is what's going to give you where you want to be in terms of analytics. And then your ROI will fall, in line very easily. If you know what you're trying, if you have set those benchmarks, what goals you're trying to get to with the money that you're spending in digital marketing, you should be able to compute your ROI pretty rapidly.
So JP, when you start a project with a company, what are the key KPIs, if you were to narrow it down to 3 to 5, that are absolutely critical? What do you look at?
Yeah, so most of our current clients, for instance, for boomtime, most of our clients, they are very interested because they're B2B customers. They want to get leads, qualified leads, right? So a lot of things they look at is the number of high quality leads that we bring to them through our digital marketing efforts and our word of mouth marketing campaigns. So they typically have computed themselves the value of these leads. So they can tell that the people we're bringing in, this is a good lead, this is not, and so on. And they kind of assign a value to those leads based on the KPIs that's very critical to know if you're a business, which is lifetime value of a customer, so LTV as we call it in our marketing jargon. But LTV is pretty critical because it tells you how much money over the life of a customer are you going to be able to make from that customer, so that's based on obviously the prices for your services or products, but also the length of time that these customers will stay with you. So your churn rate obviously has an impact on your LTV. But if you know your LTV, then you can pretty easily figure out, the value of the leads that come in through our services. Number of leads, of qualified leads, value of leads are KPIs that a lot of companies that we deal with are very, very focused on for a very good reason. But because we will typically fill the top of the funnel, meaning we drive a lot of awareness, we drive referrals, recommendations, word of mouth. We fill the very top of the sales funnel, and then after that, we hand off those leads to our clients, our customers, and then it's for them to close them, to finalize them, to refine, to basically get them deeper down this sales funnel that we're talking about. So I would say those are the two most important ones. And obviously that leads turn into hopefully revenue. So revenue is always something that's pretty critical. Some of our clients are are not interested in necessarily just qualified leads. They just want to build awareness of their services. And so impressions or number of contacts, it can be also a pretty good KPI. It really depends on the company, but I would say leads first and impressions or KPIs or connections second.
It's a strategy decision whether you're doing impressions or leads. So when do you do more impressions versus leads?
Well, it really depends on the goals of the company and also what their strategy is, and it typically depends also on where they are in their life cycle as a company. So, for instance, for companies that are pretty young, startups just need to establish themselves in the marketplace, they're going to be looking at awareness and impressions and like get me as many people put me in touch with as many people as possible. That's what they For companies that are more established, are farther down in their life cycle as a company, when at that point they probably want, qualified leads, very, very good leads, people that they can sign relatively easily, maybe shorten their sales cycles a little bit, and those kinds of things.
So tell me, what are the mistakes that a company can make that makes their marketing campaign not work?
Wow, there's a lot of them. I think, well, look, it feels like I'm beating the same drum a little bit, but really not really spending the time to figure out what success looks like and how to measure that success. Because if you can't measure something, you cannot manage it, you cannot monitor it. So you could and then you could do anything you want in digital marketing and not be able to say, well, did we succeed or did we fail? So I think that objective setting, that KPI setting, that benchmark setting at the very beginning of the project is super critical. And also, I've seen a lot of mistakes of people who have I've met a lot of people in the business who have a very strong sense of what they should be doing, what their issues are, but based on gut feel and based on experience. It's like, I've been doing this for 30 years. I know what my clients want. I know how they react to our product. I know this, but and sometimes they have to take a step back, and we recommend that and look at the numbers, do some research, basic research, and figure out exactly what their position in the marketplace is, what people actually do think about their products and services, and so on, and not not questioning necessarily what you think is, and trying to really dig into those basic tenets of marketing, saying know your audience, talk to your audience correctly, offer the right product at the right price at the right time to the right people, and so on, and being able to segment those. You cannot do that if you have this monolithic idea of how things are, and you need to be a little bit more vulnerable and more questioning about what your current position is, to make sure that the strategies that you devise are going to be based on a solid knowledge foundation.
Information is so important, isn't it? And I couldn't agree with you more about the discipline to seek out that information. Far easier to go by gut, but then when things don't work, we're scrambling, and right?
Yeah, totally. And I think this is one of the major reasons why marketing campaigns fail, is because they're based on faulty assumptions, basically. And I think that's something that companies need to take the time to take a hard look at, and have that discipline, as you just mentioned, to look at what the foundational information about their companies, their clients, the marketplace is. And that's something that's sometimes hard to do. There's a lot of information out there, as you mentioned, and that's how I see the role of a lot of digital marketing agencies is to help the client sort through that gigantic universe of information, of tactics, of tools, of companies that can help them do things. That's where I think the complexity comes in, and where the experience and the discipline of a good digital marketing agency comes into play.
We are almost out of time, JP. So before we close, things that we haven't covered that are really important that you think our audience should know.
Wow, there's a lot. But I think one of the things that is very pertinent in today's strange world that we all live in on a personal and professional basis is the fact that although digital marketing can sound a little bit daunting, because as we talked about, there is so much information and there are so many companies that do so many different things. You can go to an agency, but you can also buy what we call off-the-shelf packages that allow you to do a lot of the things that agencies do. And there's a lot of data. The big data was a term that was coined a few years ago, but was basically a representation or the name of a trend that was driven by digital marketing, where there's a lot of data being generated by all kinds of tools and companies out there that can help you, but also that is very difficult to sort through. So I think this digital marketing is kind of a daunting task, especially for maybe people who have a more traditional background or haven't really dealt with marketing much at all. And it has this duality of being kind of an art and a science at the same time. So I think that, but at the same time, in this day and age, digital marketing is really a tool that is, or a series of tools that can really, really impact the performance of your company and really cement your legacy as a company. You cannot go to trade shows. You cannot go to conferences. It's really hard to meet your clients one-on-one if you're a B2B company. And nobody knows when we'll be able to go back to the old normal, if at all, or what the new normal will look like. And the beauty of digital marketing is that you can reach literally every single one of your customers via different tools. You don't have to go to trade shows anymore. You don't have to go to conferences. You don't have to pick up the phone. You can do a lot of things to fill up the top of the funnel and drill down the sales funnel in a very exhaustive way, but at the same time in a very measurable way, and also generate really strong ROIs.
What I think.
Understand that sorry to interrupt you, but digital marketing is really can make like difference between literally life and death for a company in this day and age.
What's really missing right now is a good handbook. And here are the basics, and here are the way you measure it. Here's how you set strategy. There's bits and pieces everywhere, but you have to really sort. And also the speed at which it changes is most places don't keep up with that. So a resource that can be current would be very valuable right now.
Well, it's interesting you saying that. I don't know if you knew, but you might have known. But we are putting together a book of all our blog posts and podcasts and things that we've been doing at Boomtime, and we realized that we have about 175-page book right now waiting to be published, probably in digital form, that talks about all these different things that, how to do a lot of these different things and how to measure ROI and how to look at what kind of analytics makes sense and so on. So, maybe everybody who's listening here can keep their eyes open, and we'll be out with a book in the next few months. Hopefully that can help a little bit get us towards the goal that you were describing.
Super. And when you get it together, let us know, and we'll make sure that the audience has an opportunity to at least take a look at it. JP, thank you so much for being with us today and being with us on Building My Legacy podcast.
It was my pleasure, Lois. Thanks for having me.
You've been listening to Building My Legacy podcast with Dr. Lois Sonstegard. To book your appointment with Dr. Sonstegard, visit www.buildtomorrow.com.